Hello my fellow working class heroes, good day. I am Carlo and welcome to Carlo Excels. These are the objectives of this episode. Today we're gonna give a brief introduction of the logical functions. Then we're gonna go with the basic logical functions, the true, the false, the exact, and the not logical functions. We're gonna talk about their definitions and their uses. So before we start with this lesson on the logical functions, let me first say that this lesson assumes that you already know how to use the if function and the nested if function. If you do not know how to use those the if function yet, please proceed to the descriptions part below this video to find links on our lesson on the if function and the nested if function. So what are logical functions? Logical functions are Excel functions that return true or false based on certain conditions. They can modify or change other logical operators and functions, and they can set conditions not available to basic logical operators. As a review, once again, these are our basic logical operators. We have our equal to, our not equal to, our greater than, our less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. But sometimes you have certain outcomes that need certain conditions, and these conditions that you need are not necessarily equal to or not equal to or greater than or less than or greater than or equal to or not less than equal to. Or sometimes you may need multiple of these statements. Sometimes you need to be able to test multiple conditions for just one outcome. And once again, these are where logical functions come into play. Logical functions can modify or change logical operators or even set conditions that are not available to basic logical operators. These are the logical functions that we're going to talk about here in Carlo Excels. First, in this particular lesson, we're going to talk about the true, the false, the exact, and the not logical functions. For the next lesson, we're going to talk about the and the or logical functions. And on the lesson after that, we're gonna talk about the is series of logical functions. First, we have the true function. The true function returns the logical value true. For the true function, the function name is true, and for the function arguments, you have none. Next, we have the false function. The false function returns the logical value false. For the false function, the function name is false, and for our function arguments, we have none. Now we're back here at our Microsoft Excel worksheet. If you were here during our lesson on the if function, this should be familiar to you because this was the first example I used to discuss the if function. So just as a review, what we did was, based on the number entered on A2, we made an if function on cell A5. So what we did was, if the value on A2 is less than 10, then we had A5 display the result 1000. And if the value is greater than or equal to 10, we had cell A5 display the value which says, display the text which says, no, it is not less than 10. So let's recreate that if function that we had before. So let's do that again. So we had calling out the function name if. The condition is, if cell A2 is less than 10, then we display the value 1000. If it is not less than 10, then we display the text data. No, it is not less than 10. Like so. Now, there are certain cases wherein you, as the person who is writing the worksheet, would like to force an outcome in this particular if statement. You want to force, for example, a true outcome or a false outcome so that you can test the value if true argument or the value if false argument. So in that particular situation, the true function and the false function are very handy because the true function forces a true result, and the false function forces a false result. So what do we do now? What we do is we insert the true or false function here at the logical test part. So let's say we want to force a true result here. So all we have to do is, where the logical test is supposed to be, we insert the true function. So calling out the function name true, like so. And because this function has no arguments, just like any other function which has no arguments, we simply open and then close a parenthesis. So this is the use of a true function, just like what you can see on the screen. This is me inserting the true function where the logical test is supposed to be. And when I press enter, you force a true result in this case. And on the other hand, if you want to force a false result, well, all you have to do is use the false function. So let's replace the logical test with the false function. So let's type in false. and then open and close parenthesis because again, this has no arguments. When we press enter, you will notice that the result now gives us the result when the argument is false. In other words, the value if false. So this is how you force Microsoft Excel, in this case, a false argument. Now, just one note. In fact, you don't even need the open and close parentheses for the true or false functions. You can even just type in here true without the open and close parentheses, and if you press enter, this still has the effect of the true function. If you put in false here without the open and close parentheses, this has the same effect as the false function. However, just to be safe, there are certain older versions of Microsoft Excel that do not accept the true or the false function without the open and close parentheses. There are also certain worksheet programs that also do not accept the true or the false functions without the open and close parentheses. So just to be safe, just include the open and close parentheses when using the true or the false functions. Next, we have the exact function. The exact function compares two text strings and returns true if they are exactly the same and false otherwise. Exact is case sensitive but ignores formatting differences. Use exact to test text being entered into a document. For the exact function, the function name is exact, and for your function arguments, you have two. First is the first text and second is the second text. Now we're back here in our Microsoft Excel worksheet, and if you were here during our lesson on the if function, this should be familiar to you because this was the worksheet that we used to test text data. So just as a review, we wanted the users to enter some sort of text password here on cell A2 and then display a result based on whatever they entered here. So what we did was, if this cell over here is equal to Carlo Excels, like so, then we want, if this is true, then we want this cell to display this value here, 1000. And if it is false, we want this cell to display password incorrect, like so. So let's try that out. If that works correctly, we enter some sort of password here, password still incorrect, password still incorrect. However, when we enter the required password, which is Carlo Excels, then this will turn out to be true and it will display the value 1000. However, the problem with using basic logical operators when dealing with text data is it is not case sensitive. So in other words, if we use Carlo Excels with this capitalization, you will notice that it turns out to be true. However, when we use different capitalization, like for example, let's put that all caps like so, the value still turns out to be true. Or if we use this capitalization, the value still turns out to be true. Now, if you want Microsoft Excel to compare two pieces of text data together, but you want Microsoft Excel to be case sensitive, in other words, you want Microsoft Excel to check the proper capitalization, then you use the exact function. So let's try putting in the exact function. So, calling out the function name, if, and then where the logical test is supposed to be, we're supposed to put in the exact function. So calling out the function name exact, and then putting in the arguments, like so. So you're going to need two text data for Microsoft Excel to compare. Now, the first text data that we want Microsoft Excel to compare is whatever is entered on cell A2. So let's click on here. So cell A2, and then the next text data that we want Microsoft Excel to compare with is a constant. So let's put in here the text data Carlo Excels, like so. And then we put in a closing parenthesis. So you see here, exact A2 Carlo Excels. What Microsoft Excel is going to do is going to compare whatever is in cell A2 and the text data, the text constant Carlo Excels, and this time it will check for capitalization. So if they are the same, the exact function is going to give the result true, and if it is not the same, it is going to give the result false. So if this is true, meaning if cell A2 is exactly the same as Carlo Excels, then we want the if function to have the result of the value 1000, which is in cell C2. And if they're not the same, then we want Microsoft Excel to return the value false, which is this text data here, password incorrect, which is the value in cell C4. So let's click on that, and then close the parenthesis, closing parenthesis, and then press enter. So let's try this out. So if you enter any password here in cell A2, here, password incorrect, password incorrect, password incorrect. Now, if we enter Carlo Excels exactly as we should, meaning all of them are small letters, and we press enter, now we get the true result because cell A2 is exactly the same as what we attended, which is the text constant value, which is Carlo Excels. However, if we use different capitalization, let's say for example we do this, you will now notice that the value returns as false because this is not the exact capitalization that we need, or even this still returns as false. So that is what the exact function is for. It tests two text data, pieces of text data, and then it checks for capitalization. And next, we have the not function. The not function reverses the value of its argument. Using the not function will turn true arguments into false arguments and false arguments into true arguments. For the not function, the function name is not, and for the function argument, you have any logical argument. Going back here in this particular worksheet, if you remember, we want cell A2 to say exactly Carlo Excels for this to turn out to be true. But what if, for example, you want the exact function to give you a result of false whenever cell A2 is exactly equal to Carlo Excels? Now for that, you need the not function. So how do you use the not function? Well, all you have to do is to encase within the parentheses of the not function any logical function that you want to reverse the result of. So say for example, if you want to reverse the result of this logical argument here, all you have to do is to put it inside the not function. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to take this exact function here and I'm gonna put it inside the not function like so. So again, you will notice that this exact function is inside me calling out the not function. It is inside the two parentheses here. When you press enter, that is your result now. So essentially, what we have done is we have reversed the result of the exact function. In this case, it now gives us a false if A2 is exactly equal to Carlo Excels, and now gives us a true if it is not exact, if A2 is not exactly equal to Carlo Excels. That is why right now, when I have the correct password here, which is Carlo Excels, it gives us a false result. If I enter any other password here, it now gives us the true result. And even if I use Carlo Excels but in the wrong capitalization, it still gives us a true result. Once again, we reversed the decision, or we reversed the result with the not function. Of course, the not function may not seem so useful by itself, but when it is used in combination with other logical functions and other basic logical operators, such as the is series or the and the or logical functions, then it becomes very useful, especially when you're editing, especially when you put the true argument and the false argument the other way around. Instead of having to reverse the logical function or the logical argument manually, you can simply use the not function to simply reverse it. So that's it for our lesson on the basic logical functions, the true, the false, the exact, and the not logical functions. I hope I earned your subscription today. Once again, I am Carlo, and this is Carlo Excels. Thank you very much for watching.